Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining. So, we are starting the next session. It is my privilege to introduce another eminent psychologist, Professor Neena Kohli. She's presently the head of the department, psychology at University of Allahabad. Her area of specialization includes health psychology, organizational behavioral management, occupational stress and health. She has published more than 37 papers in international and national journal and has been awarded with Award of Excellence for Teaching and Research in 2019. In fact, she has been a great motivational force behind this workshop and suggested her experts and gave her valuable insights and has guided me through this schedule. So thank you, ma'am, for joining us. It is indeed a privilege that you're with us. So she'll be deliberating upon the initial concepts of emotional intelligence. That is, what is EI to begin with?
Thank you, Dr. Tripti. I'm grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity and to share my views and provide some insights about the concept of emotional intelligence. I have some experience working in this area. I'm not a veteran in this area, but in psychology, we cannot do without emotional intelligence. So, some point of time, each one of us, we have been exposed to this particular concept, and we do use this particular concept in the workplace, in our families, in our society. So, the question that first comes to mind is what, as Dr. Singh rightly pointed out, that we'll begin with what is emotional intelligence and what emotional intelligence is not. So first, before we delve in this concept, we need to understand what do we mean by intelligence, because there are various kinds of intelligence, and emotional intelligence is one of them. So the first thing which we need to know is what is intelligence. Intelligence, as we all know, is one's ability to learn from experience and to adapt, to shape, and to select environments. Now, human intelligence, it is a mental quality that consists of the abilities to learn from experience. You adapt to new situations based on your experiences. You understand and you handle abstract concepts, and you use knowledge to manipulate one's environment. Various definitions they have been given about intelligence, and we all know the work of Spearman and Thurston in this particular area. According to Spearman, intelligence is a general ability that involves mainly the education of relations and correlates. Binet and Simon, they talked of intelligence in terms of the ability to judge well, to understand well, to reason well. Thurston, in his thought of intelligence, as the capacity to inhibit instinctive adjustments, flexibly imagine different responses, and realize modified instinctive adjustments into overt behavior. So there are various definitions going down, and then we have psychologists like Sternberg, Gardner. They have also talked about intelligence. There are various theories of intelligence. So these theories of intelligence, they have been of several kinds. The most visible theories that have the psychometric theories, which conceptualize intelligence in terms of a map of the mind. So it is the map of the mind. They specify the underlying structures. I will be coming to these theories again, but what I would like to stress first is when we talk of intelligence, in emotional intelligence, it has been an important and controversial topic during the last few decades. Its significance and its correlation with many domains of life has made it the subject of expert study. Emotional intelligence, or EI, it is the rudder for feeling, thinking, learning, problem solving, and decision making. Now, when we talk of emotional intelligence, then we try to answer in terms of three particular questions. What is emotional intelligence? How can it be acquired, if it can be acquired? And what are the characteristics of emotionally intelligent people? How do we know that this person is emotionally intelligent or this person has emotional intelligence? How do we exhibit these particular characteristics? So, many people, they misinterpret their own emotional reactions. This morning, Professor Tripathi was talking about emotions and managing emotions at the workplace, in organizations. And then when you are, how do you manage your emotions? If you are not able to manage your emotion, then that outburst, what does it lead to? What does it hamper productivity? Does it hamper the growth of the individual? Are we able to identify our emotions? Do I know that I am happy at the moment? Am I able to understand that I am angry or I am sad or am I in a state of despair? But so many people, they misinterpret their own emotional reactions. They fail to control emotional outbursts, or they act strangely under various pressures. So resulting in harmful consequences to themselves, others, and societies. In contrast, there are people who are able to manage their emotions. Other people, they have a greater ability to perform sophisticated information processing about emotions and emotion relevant stimuli, and to use this information as a guide for their own thoughts and behaviors and for others. Thus, there are people who misinterpret the emotions, who are not able to control their emotions, which results in emotional outbursts. It hampers their growth, it hampers the growth of the organization. Compared to them, there are individuals who are intelligent enough and who do sophisticated information processing about information and information relevant stimuli, and then they use this information to guide their own thoughts and behaviors. Emotional intelligence, this is of great interest to scientists and researchers. Studies from the past till today, they continue to be made about the nature of emotional intelligence, its measurement, its structure, its positive and negative effects, and its relationship to many research fields. The impact of emotional intelligence and its influence on daily life in the short and long term is important as well. Intellectual ability, it is significant to succeed in everyday life within many sectors. Intelligence, as I said earlier, it is an important aspect of the mind that includes a lot of cognitive abilities, such as one's ability in logic, planning, problem solving, adaptation, abstract thinking, understanding of ideas, language use, and learning. So, I repeat that intelligence, it is an important aspect of the mind. And this includes a lot of cognitive abilities, such as one's ability in logic, one's ability for planning, problem solving, adaptation, abstract thinking, and understanding of ideas, language use, and learning. However, there are some other important components that contribute to this success, and these include social capabilities, emotional adaptation, emotional sensitivity, empathy, practical intelligence, and incentives. So, apart from this, the components we will talk about are social capabilities, social intelligence, then our emotional adaptation, empathy, emotional sensitivity, practical intelligence. Am I able to put myself in the shoes of others? I can only realize the pain, I can only feel, I can only I'm only sensitive when I'm able to put my feet in the shoes of others. If I'm able to do that, I will understand the other person. So empathy is different from sympathy. Emotionally intelligent person would exhibit empathy. And emotional intelligence, further taking it further, it also focuses on the character and aspects of self-control. So, are we able to delay gratification? Are we able to control ourselves? So, it is an important input. It is an important component of character. Are we able to tolerate frustrations and regulate our impulses? If we are able to regulate our impulses, if we are able to tolerate our frustrations, if we are able to delay our gratifications, then we exhibit those qualities of an emotionally intelligent person. Emotional intelligence, this also speaks into many areas, such as for psychological sciences, for example, the neuroscience of emotion, the theory of self-regulation, and metacognition, as well as the search for human cognitive abilities beyond what is traditionally known as academic intelligence. So it goes beyond. I may be academically very, very intelligent, but if I am poor on emotional intelligence, if I am not able to comprehend, if I am not able to manage, if I am not aware of what is happening around me, then I am incomplete. It is just being academically intelligent does not help. You need to have more than that, because um, if we are not able to manage, if we are not able to look at what is happening, if we are not able to comprehend, then there is no, it is not worth just being academically intelligent. If I have a number of medals to my credit and I'm not able to relate to people, I'm not able to belong to any group. When Professor Tripathi was talking about groups, caste-based groups in an organization, and we talk of there's a hierarchy. Professor Tripathi, Rajiv Tripathi, director, he was talking about belongingness. So all these things, they are very, very important to emotional intelligence. Now, in this presentation of mine, as I said, I'm going to, and I briefly touched on it, I'm going to discuss the most discussed theories of intelligence, of emotions, and of emotional intelligence. Then I will talk about a 9-layer model, a pyramid of emotional intelligence, which aims to show the levels a person must pass in order to reach the upper level of emotional intelligence, which is the topmost level, which is emotional unity. So the stratification of the pyramid of emotional intelligence, that will be in tune with the pyramid of the functions of general intelligence. I began with intelligence now, and I said that there are various theories. I started talking of people who work in this area. Now, the structure and characteristics, nature of human intelligence, this has been discussed, they have been discussed, and they have been the subject of debate since the time of Plato and Aristotle. So intelligence it is a very, very old concept. At least 1,000 years ago, these concepts they have been discussed. Plato defined intelligence as a learning tune. For him, it is a tune. Under this concept, Plato and Aristotle, they put forth three components of mind and soul. So these three components of mind and soul, they are intellect, sentiment, and will. Intellect, sentiment, and will. The word intelligence, it comes from two Latin words, intelligentsia and ingenium. Intelligentsia and ingenium. The first word is considered in the way Cicero used the term, means understanding and knowledge. The second word means natural predisposition or ability. So intelligence will be your natural predisposition and ability and your understanding and knowledge. So at various points in history, researchers they have proposed different definitions to explain the nature of intelligence. Some of the important theories of intelligence that have emerged over the last 100 years, they are, first is the theory of Charles Spearman. Charles Spearman, as I said earlier also, he developed the theory of two factors of intelligence. And there's two factors of intelligence using data factor analysis to show that the positive correlations between mental examinations resulted from a common underlying agent. Spearman suggested that the two-factor theory had two components. The first was general intelligence, which was denoted with G, and this affected one's performance in all mental tasks and supported all intellectual tasks and abilities. Spearman also believed that the results in all the trials, they correlated positively, underlying the importance of general intelligence. Now, the second agent Spearman found was the specific factor or the S factor. This S factor, it is associated with any unique capabilities which are required for a particular test, and this may differ from test to test. Regarding G, Spearman saw that individuals had more or less general intelligence, while S, or the specific intelligence, that varied from person to person in a job. But Spearman gave much more importance to general intelligence than to the specific agent. In 1938, American psychologist Louis Thurston suggested that intelligence was not a general factor, but a small set of independent factors that were of equal importance. So, moving from Spearman said that there are certain small factors which are equally important, and Thurston formulated a model of intelligence which centered on primary mental abilities, which were independent groups of intelligence that different people possessed in varying degrees. So Thurston and his wife Thelma, they thought of a total of 56 exams. They passed the test bundle to 240 students, They analyzed the scores with their method of analysis. Then based on that, they recognized 7 primary cognitive abilities. First, verbal understanding, the ability to understand the notions of words. Second was verbal flexibility, the speed with which verbal material is handled, such as in the production of rhymes. Third was number, the arithmetic capacity. Fourth was memory. Now, the ability to remember words, numbers, letters, images. Fifth ability which we talked was perceptual speed, the ability to quickly discern and distinguish visual details, and the ability to perceive the similarities and the differences between displayed objects. Sixth, he talked of inductive reasoning. That is the extraction of general ideas and rules from specific. So you deduce and then you induce. And seventh was spatial visualization, to visualize in the mind. Now Guilford, he extended Thurston's work. So first we had Spearman, then Thurston, then Guilford. Guilford extended Thurston's work and he devoted his life to create the model for structure of intelligence, SI, which is the structure of intellect theories. I'm just talking briefly of this. You can look up the details. If you just type in these words, you will get to know about the theories. Guilford, he described his intellect theory consists of 3 dimensions. Now, these 3 dimensions were thought functions, thought content, and thought products. He described 120 different kinds of intelligence, and these had 150 possible combinations. So he discovered the important distinction between convergent and divergent thought. Now, the Kettle, Horn, and Carroll 3-strata models, they are consensual psychometric models that help us to understand the construction of human intelligence. So, we have talked about Spearman, then Thurston, then Guilford, then now coming to Kettle-Horn and Kettle three-stratum model of consensual psychometric models. They applied new methods of analysis, and according to this analysis, there are two types of general intelligence: fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. Fluid intelligence represents the biological basis of emotions, how fast someone thinks, and how well they remember the elements of fluid intelligence. Fluid intelligence enables a person to think and to act quickly, in the demands of the situation, to solve new problems, and to encode short-term memories. Crystallized intelligence, on the other hand, is the knowledge and skills acquired through the learning process and through experience. So it is through a learning process and through experience. Crystallized abilities, they come from learning and reading and are reflected in knowledge trials, general information, language use. As long as learning opportunities are available, crystallized intelligence may increase indefinitely during a person's life. So we are in a position to increase our crystallized intelligence. In the 1980s, Robert Sternberg, again an American psychologist, proposed an intelligence theory which he tried to extend the traditional notion of intelligence. Sternberg observed that the mental tests that people are subjected to are often inaccurate and they are inadequate. There are people who do well on these tests. We have also seen some tests that they do well in these tests, but when it comes to the real life situations, they do not perform well. And the opposite also occurs. So according to Sternberg, he had a triarchical, a three-part theory of intelligence. He said intelligence consists of three main parts: analytical intelligence, creative intelligence, and practical intelligence. Analytical intelligence, it refers to problem solving skills. Creative, as the term indicates, that refers to the ability to handle new situations using past experiences and current skills. And practical intelligence refers to the ability to adapt to new situations and environments. Now, further down the line, Howard Gardner introduced his theory of multiple intelligence, which at that time was a fundamental issue in education and a controversial topic among psychologists. According to Gardner, the notion of intelligence, as defined through the various mental tests, was limited. Gardner argued that there is not only one kind of general intelligence, but there are multiple intelligences, and each one is a part of an independent system in the brain. Their theory outlines 8 types of smart, intelligence, so which he calls linguistic intelligence, logical mathematical intelligence, spatial intelligence, bodily kinetic intelligence, musical intelligence, is interpersonal intelligence, people smart, intrapersonal intelligence, self smart, and naturalist intelligence, nature smart. So these are the various theories which have been proposed in the area of intelligence. Now coming to emotions, because since we will slowly and gradually be talking about emotional intelligence, emotions, according to Darwin, all people, irrespective of their culture, their race, they express emotions using their face and body with a similar way as part of our evolutionary heritage. Emotion is often defined as a complex feeling, which results in physical and psychological changes affecting thought and behavior. Emotions may include feeling, thought, physiological changes, behavioral changes. Emotions, they are also as recognized as one of the 3 or 4 fundamental categories of mental emotion operations. Now, the most major theories of emotions, they agree that cognitive processes, they are a very important source of emotions, and that feelings, they comprise a possible powerful motivational force. So there are various evolutionary theories of emotion, such as the James Lange theory, Cannon-Bard theory, Schachter and Singer's two-factor theory, and cognitive appraisal. So the evolutionary theories, they are James Lange theory, Cannon-Bard theory, Schachter and Singer's two-factor theory, and cognitive appraisal. Then moving from here, I'm going to talk about emotional intelligence. See, any one of us can become angry. That is very easy. I can become angry at the moment. But to be angry with the right person, Aristotle says that to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, this is not easy. It says that anyone can become angry. That is very easy. And Aristotle says, but to be angry with the right person, you are angry with the right person, not that you have your frustration, aggression, and then because you're not able to scold your boss, you start scolding your subordinates. That is not so. You have to be angry with the right person and to the right degree, extent to which you can be angry. If can be an emotional outburst, extent to which you can express your anger, and at the right time. What if you are angry once the act has been done, once the person is not there? There's no point in being angry. And for the right purpose. If I just want to take out my grudges, if I'm vindictive and I'm being angry, that is not being in the right purpose and not doing it the right way, because this is not easy. So, though thorough research has indicated that the important role that emotions play in our lives in many fields. Emotional intelligence, research is equal to or sometimes much more than intelligent quotient. Emotion and intelligence, they are heavily linked. That is why we have this emotional intelligence. And if you are aware of your own and others' feelings, this will help you to manage behaviors and relationships and predict success in many sectors. This was discussed in the morning also. Emotional intelligence, it is the ability to identify, to understand, and to use emotions positively to manage anxiety. So, emotional intelligence, it is your ability to identify, to make sense of it, to understand, and to use your emotions positively. Once you have identified, once you have understood, you use them positively to manage anxiety, to communicate well, to empathize, to overcome issues which are there, solve problems, and manage conflicts. According to the Ability EI model, it is the perception, evaluation, and management of emotions in yourself and others. So, according to this model, it is the perception, evaluation, and management of emotions in yourself and others. Emotional intelligence, or the ability to perceive, use, understand, and regulate emotions, it is a relatively new concept that attempts to connect both emotion and cognition. This tries to connect both of them. Emotional intelligence, this first appeared in the concept of Thorndike social intelligence in 1920, and later from the psychologist Howard Gardner, who in 1983 recommended the theory of multiple intelligence, arguing that the intelligence includes 8 forms. American psychologists Peter Salovey and John Mayer, who together introduced this concept in 1990. They define emotional intelligence as the ability to monitor one's own and others' emotions, to discriminate among them. If you are able to monitor one's own and others' emotions, and you should be able to discriminate among them and to use the information to guide one's thinking and actions. People who have developed the emotional intelligence, they have this ability to use the emotions to direct thoughts and behaviors and to understand their own feelings and others' feelings accurately. Daniel Goleman, who did a lot of work on this, he was an American writer, a psychologist, and a science journalist, disclosed the EI concept in his book named Emotional Intelligence. He extended the concept to include general social competence. Goleman suggested that EI is indispensable for the success of one's life. Mayer and Salovey, they suggested that EI is a cognitive ability which is separate but also associated with general intelligence. Specifically, Mayer, Salovey, Caruso, and Sirtario suggested that emotional intelligence consists of 4 skill dimensions. Emotional intelligence consists of 4 skill dimensions. First is perceiving emotions. That is the ability to detect emotion in faces, pictures, music, etc. Facilitating thought with emotion. That is the ability to harness emotional information in one's thinking. Third, understanding emotions. That is the ability to understand emotional information. And fourth is managing emotions. So the 4 dimensions are perceiving information, emotions, facilitating thought with emotions, understanding emotions, and managing emotions. These are skills, they are arranged hierarchically so that perceptual emotion has a key role facilitating thinking, understanding emotions, and managing emotions. These branches are arising from higher order basic skills. According to Baron, emotional social intelligence is composed of emotional and social abilities, skills, and facilitators. Now, Daniel Goleman, he defines emotional intelligence quotient as the ability to recognize our own feelings and those of others, to motivate ourselves and to handle our emotions well to the best of ourselves and our relationships. They also introduced the concept of emotional intelligence, as I said earlier, and they pointed out that it is composed of 25 elements which were subsequently compiled into 5 clusters. And those clusters, they relate to self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. In 2001, Patrice and Fernham, they developed the trait emotional intelligence model, which is a combination of emotionally related self-perceived abilities and moods that are found at the lowest level of personality hierarchy. The trait emotional intelligence essentially concerns our perceptions of our inner emotional world. An alternate tag which can be used for the same construct is trait emotional self-efficacy. Now, people with high emotional intelligence rankings believe that they are in touch with their feelings. Your feelings are your constant companions. You can identify your feelings and you can regulate them in a way that promotes prosperity. So these people, they enjoy higher levels of happiness. Trait emotional intelligence rejects the ideas that emotions can be artificially objectified in order to be graded accurately. So it cannot be graded accurately. This is what they reject, this particular idea. Research on emotional intelligence, it has been divided into 2 distinct areas of perspectives in terms of emotional competencies and their measurements. There is the ability EI model and the trait EI model. So I have talked about this also, the ability EI model and the trait EI model. So coming now again a little recap on this concept. This construct of emotional intelligence, it began with Spearman, and till date we have about 15 ways the way it has been conceptualized. Emotional intelligence, it refers to a set of emotional abilities that are supposed to foretell success in the real world. Some findings they have shown that high EI leads to better social relationships for children, better social relationships for adults, and more positive perception of individuals. EI consistently seems to predict better social relations during work performance and in negotiations. So having said that, we know that emotional intelligence, it is an important thing, and if it is with little skills and with effort, it can also be cultivated. Now I'm going to talk about the pyramid of emotional intelligence, which is the 9-layer model of emotional intelligence. Taking into consideration all the theories of the past concerning pyramids and layer models, EI has been analyzed by Gardner, by these psychologists, in terms of the layers, and they analyze the levels step by step. So they say that this 9-layer model, it begins with emotional stimuli and it ends up with the topmost layer, which is the layer of emotional unity. The first layer is emotional stimuli. Now, what is emotional stimuli? Emotional stimuli, every day we receive a lot of information stimuli from our environment. Now also you are receiving stimuli from the environment. Now we need to incorporate this information stimuli which we get, and into categories, because that will help us to understand the world better and the people that surround us better. The direct stimulus of emotions is a result of the sensorious stimulus processing by the cognitive mechanisms. When an event occurs, sensory stimuli, they are received by the agent. So the emotional stimuli constitute the base of the pyramid of emotional intelligence. Then the second one is emotional recognition. The next level of the pyramid after the emotional stimuli is the recognition of emotions simultaneously expressed at times. Accuracy is higher when emotions are both expressed and recognized. So if they are expressed and recognized, then accuracy would be higher. Emotion recognition, it includes the ability to accurately decode the expression of others. So the message is there. Now your task is to decode the expression of others, their feelings, usually which are transmitted through non-verbal channels. That is my voice. I'm speaking at the moment, though I have a bad cold, so my voice is not up to the mark. But you can make the non-verbal channels, maybe my body, my face. This ability is positively linked to social ability and interaction. And Elfenbein and Ambedy, they commented that emotion recognition is the most reliably validated component of emotional intelligence. Now, this ability to express and to recognize emotions in others is an important part of the daily human interaction and interpersonal relationships, as it is a representation of a critical component of human socio-cognitive capacities. Now, the third level in the pyramid, we have talked of emotional stimuli, we have talked of emotion regulation. The third level of the pyramid talks of self-awareness. Socrates mentioned in his guiding principle, know thyself. Aristotle also mentioned, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. These two ancient Greek aphorisms encompass the concept of self-awareness. So, know thyself and knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. They encompass this concept of self-awareness, which is a cognitive capacity, and which is the step in the pyramid after having acquired the previously two. Now, what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is having a clear perception of your personality, including your strength, your weakness, your thoughts, your beliefs, motives, and feelings. As you develop self-awareness, you are able to change your thoughts, which in turn allow you to change your emotions and eventually your actions. You can change them. Crisp and Turner, they define self-awareness as a psychological situation in which people they know their traits, feelings, and behaviors. Alternately, it can be defined as the realization of oneself as an individual entity. So I am an individual entity. That realization of myself, that is my self-awareness. Developing self-awareness is the first step to develop your EI. If you want to develop your EI, you should first learn how to develop self-awareness. The lack of self-awareness in terms of understanding ourselves and having a sense of ourselves has roots in our own values, that impedes our ability to self-manage and is difficult. Daniel Goleman, he recognized that self-awareness as emotional consciousness, accurate self-esteem, and self-confidence. Moving further, the fourth thing in our pyramid, the fourth layer, is self-management. Once you have clarified your emotions and the way they can affect the situation other people, you are ready to move to the EQ area of self-management. Self-management allows you to control your reaction so that you are not driven by impulsive behaviors and feelings. With self-management, you become more flexible, more extroverted and receptive, and at the same time, less critical on situations and less reactionary. We have we are very reactionary to people's ideas. So if we are able to learn self-management, we will be less reactionary to people's attitudes and we will be less critical. Moreover, you know more about what to do. When you have recognized your feelings and have accepted them, you are then able to manage them much better. The more you learn on the way to manage your emotions, the greater your ability will be to articulate them in a productive way when the need be. So when the need arises, you can articulate them in a productive way. This does not mean that you must crush your negative emotions. It does not say that you should crush your negative emotions, but if you realize them, you can amend your behavior and make small or big changes to the way you react and manage. The second emotional quotient quadrant of self-management consists of 9 key components. This is emotional self-control, integrity, innovation, initiative and prejudice to action, resilience, achievement guide, stress management, and realistic optimism and intentionality. So this is the second emotional quadrant of self-management. This consists of 9 components. Now moving further, coming to the fifth layer of the pyramid, this is social awareness or empathy, the discrimination of emotions. Since you have cultivated the ability to understand, now you have cultivated the ability to understand and to control your emotions, you are ready to move to the next step of recognizing and understanding the emotions. Self-management is a prerequisite for social awareness. You cannot have social awareness without self-management. It is an expansion of your emotional awareness. Social awareness, it refers to the way people handle relationship and awareness of others' feelings, needs and concern. The social awareness cluster, it contains 3 competencies. Now the 3 competencies which are there in the social awareness clusters, they are empathy, organizational awareness and service orientation. So it is empathy, organizational awareness and service orientation. Being socially aware means that you understand how you react to social situations and effectively you modify interactions with other people. Empathy is the most important essential emotional quotient component of social awareness, and it is directly related to self-awareness. It is the ability, as I said, to put yourself in another's shoes, to understand him as a person, to feel him, and to take into account this perspective related to this person. With empathy, we can understand the feelings and thoughts of others. The net result of social awareness is the ongoing development of social skills and a personal continuous improvement process. Now, the third arm, which is the discrimination of emotions, this belongs to that level of the pyramid because it is rather intellectual ability, which gives people the capacity to discriminate with accuracy between different emotions. Once you are able to discriminate between different emotions accurately, you will be in a position to label them appropriately. So this is it. Now, after having completed the social awareness, the next level in the pyramid of emotional intelligence that helps raise our EQ is that of social skills. So we come down now to social skills. In emotional intelligence term, social skills, it refers to the skills needed to handle and influence other people's emotions effectively to manage interactions successfully. Now, these abilities, they range from being able to tune into another person's feelings and how they and understand how they feel, and to being a great collaborator and a team player. This helps you, social skills. It helps you to be a team player, to be a collaborator, to expertise at emotions of others and at negotiations. It is all about the ability to get the best out of others, to inspire them, to influence them. Social skills under the branch of emotional intelligence, it can include influence, leadership, developing others, communication, change catalyst, conflict management, building bonds, teamwork, and collaboration. Expertise in emotions could be characterized as the ability to increase sensitivity to emotional parameters and the ability not only to accurately determine the relevance of emotional dynamics to negotiation, but also the ability to strategically expose the emotions of the individual and to respond to emotions stemming from others. As soon as all 6 of these levels have been met, which we have discussed earlier, the individual has reached the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm sure you must be familiar with Maslow's need hierarchy. They have added 2 more elements to it. So then we come, this need hierarchy, self-actualization. Every person is capable and must have the will to move up to the level of self-actualization. Self-actualization, according to Maslow, it is the realization of personal potential, self-fulfillment, pursuing personal development, and peak experiences. It is important to know that self-actualization is a continual process of becoming rather than a perfect state one reaches, such as happy ever after. Carl Rogers also created a theory that included a growth potential, whose purpose was to incorporate in the same way the real self and the ideal self, thereby cultivating the appearance of a fully functioning person. Self-actualization, it is one of the most important EI skills. It is a measure of your sense that you have a substantial personal commitment to life and that you're offering the gifts to the world that are most important to it. Self-actualizers, they feel empathy and kinship towards humanity as a whole. And therefore, that cultivates the universality of emotions. So that those that have emotional intelligence in one culture probably have emotional intelligence in another culture too. And they have the ability to understand the difference of emotions and their meanings, despite the fact that sometimes emotions, they are culturally dependent. Maslow also proposed that people who have reached self-actualization, they will sometimes experience a state which he referred to as transcendence. In the level of transcendence, one helps to self-actualize, find self-fulfillment, and realize their potential. The emotional quotient is strong, and to those who have reached that level, they try to help others understand and manage their own and others' emotion. Transcendence, it refers to the much higher and more comprehensive of holistic levels of human consciousness by behaving and associating as ends rather than as means. Transcendence is strongly correlated with, it correlates well with self-esteem, emotional well-being, and global empathy. Self-transcendence can be expressed in various ways, behaviors, and perspectives, like the exchange of wisdom and emotion with others. Now, the final level in our pyramid of emotional intelligence is emotional unity. So, the end goal is emotional unity. Emotional unity is an intentionally positively oriented dynamic. It is an intentionally positive oriented dynamic in a sense that it aims towards reaching and keeping a dominance of emotions. So the aim is, it aims towards reaching and keeping a dominance of emotions which inform the respondent that he or she is controlling the situation or the setting in an accepted shape. This reached level of emotional unity in the subject or the respondent, it can be interpreted as an outcome of emotional intelligence. The emotional unity is an internal harmony. In emotional unity, one feels intense joy, peace, prosperity, and a consciousness of ultimate truth and the unity of all things. In a symbolic world, what you do for yourself, you ultimately do for another. It all starts with a love for ourselves, so that we can then channel this important feeling to everything that exists around us. Not only human beings, but also animals, plants, oceans, and rocks, and so forth. We find this, it exists there. All it takes is to see the spark of life and miracle in everything and be optimistic. The point is that somehow we are all interconnected. And the more we delve deeper our heart and follow it, the less likely it will be for us to do things that can harm others or to the planet in general. The others, they are not separate from us. Emotional unity emanates humility and empathy that bears with the imperfections of the other. Plato also talks about unity, being and one, as Parmenides writes, being is ungenerated and indestructible, whole, of one kind, and unwavering and complete. Nor was it, nor will it be, since now it is altogether one continuous. So this was basically the pyramid and the metacognitive processes. Now coming to the cognitive and the metacognitive processes which are there in this emotional intelligence pyramid. Emotional intelligence pyramid, as just to recapitulate, I had talked about 9 layers, and these 9 layers, they began with emotional stimuli, moving on to emotional regulation, perception, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, empathy, social skills, universality of emotions, self-actualization, transcendence, and then last, the tip of the triangle was emotional unity. Now, what kind of cognitive and metacognitive processes are there in this emotional intelligence pyramid? Cognition encompasses processes such as attention, memory, evaluation, problem solving, language, and perception. Cognitive processes, they use existing knowledge and they generate new knowledge. Metacognition, it is defined as the ability to monitor and reflect upon one's performance and capabilities. It is the ability of individuals to know that their own cognitive functions in order to monitor and to control their learning process. So this idea of metacognition that relies on the distinction between two types of cognitions, primary and secondary. Metacognition includes a variety of elements and skills such as meta-memory, self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-monitoring. Metacognition in emotional intelligence means that an individual perceives his or her emotional skills. Its processes involve emotional cognitive strategies such as awareness, monitoring, and self-regulation. Apart from the primary emotion, a person can experience direct thoughts that accompany these emotions. Applying the metacognitive knowledge to social emotional context should lead to the opportunity to learn to correct one's emotional errors and to promote the future possibility of a possible response to the situation while maintaining and cultivating the relationship. Thus, I would like to say that emotional intelligence is a very important concept that has come back to the fore in the last decades and has been the subject of various discussions and studies by many experts. The importance of general intelligence is neither underestimated nor changed, and this has been proven through many surveys and studies. On the other hand, however, we must also give emotional intelligence the place it deserves. The cultivation of emotional intelligence can contribute to and provide many positive benefits to people's lives in accordance with studies, surveys, and with what has already been mentioned. When it comes to happiness and success in life, emotional intelligence matters just as much as intellectual ability. Furthermore, despite the various discussions about emotional intelligence, studies have shown that emotional abilities that make up emotional intelligence are very important for the personal and social functioning of humans. A core network of brain regions such as the amygdala and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex is the key to a range of emotional abilities and plays a crucial role for human lesion. Specific emotional intelligence components are directly related to the structural and microarchitecture of major axal pathways. With emotional intelligence, you acknowledge, accept, and control your emotions and emotional reactions as well as those of other persons. With emotional intelligence, you can learn about yourself and move on to the understanding of other person's selves. You learn to coexist better, which is very important since we are not alone in this world. And because we want to advance ourselves in society, there must be cooperation and harmony. With emotional intelligence, we learn to insist, to control our impulses, to survive despite adversities and difficulties, to hope for and to have empathy. Emotional intelligence, it provides us with a better inner world to cope with the outside world. And it involves and engages higher cognitive functions such as attention, memory, regulation, reasoning. The results show that negative mood, anticipated fear are two factors of the relationship between trait emotional intelligence and risk taking in decision making. So there's a positive correlation studies show between emotional intelligence and cognitive processes, and this demonstrates the important role that emotional intelligence plays with emotion and cognitions. As we rise to the levels of pyramids of emotional intelligence that I have discussed, we step closer to its development to the fullest extent, to the universality of emotions, to emotional unity. Human being is good at trying to reach the last level of the pyramid because at each level cultivates some significant emotional, cognitive, and metacognitive skills. This emotional intelligence is a skill that can be learned and developed, and this pyramid, it is an attempt to create a new layer model based on cognitive, emotional, and metacognitive skills. In a sense, each higher level of the pyramid is an improvement towards one's personal growth and a higher state of self-regulation, self-organization, awareness, consciousness, and motivation. But along with emotional intelligence, there are certain other, I'll just briefly tell you about the other terms, which is social intelligence and spiritual intelligence. So these concepts, they are also gaining importance, and they are and they need to be cultivated. The spiritual intelligence, we have spiritual intelligence, we have spiritual quotient, then there is social intelligence, social quotient, we have emotional, we have talked of emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, emotional wisdom. Now, emotional capacity. There's another concept, which is the concept of emotional. What does emotional intelligence have to do with emotional capacity profile? So, the emotional capacity profile, it talks of personal competence, it talks of social competence. In personal competence, the emotional capacity profile talks of what I see, that is my self awareness, and what I do, which is my self management. In social competence, what I see is social awareness, and what I do is relationship management. How can I improve relationship management? I need to build high quality trust relationships. Trust was also touched in the morning. And try to discover what role emotions are playing in our interactions with others. If I sense some tension or other emotional reactions in a person's body language, then I need to understand that, and I need to be quick to settle disputes, differences of opinion, and misunderstanding. What does emotional intelligence have to do with ECP? Individual performance and organizational performance, they are related. For individual performance, just excuse me for a minute, I have a glass of water. Sorry, just wanted to have a sip some water. Individual performance, for individual performance, one needs emotional intelligence, and for organization, individual performance, it will lead to organizational performance, and for organizational performance, there has to be individual engagement and organizational engagement. For organizational engagement, the vital signs of organizational engagement are trust, motivation. Trust, people, they have a sense of safety and assurance to share. They can go beyond their comfort zones. This is what the requirement for organizations. Motivation, people, they feel motivated. So I think probably Dr. Singh, when when she opted for this program, or when maybe she applied for this program, then some motivation must have been behind her to do so. And then change. Employees, you should be ready for change. We should be adaptive, we should be innovative. Then teamwork. People collaborate. Teamwork is very important for emotional, for your capacity profile. And execution. Individuals, they are both important. They are focused and accountable. Goldman, 1995, he said, if your emotional abilities aren't in your hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are not going to get very far. Thank you. Thank you very much
for your insights and valuable inputs. I'm sure with these models and basic concepts, it's going to help us a lot. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Singh.